Okay, so yeah, I should open ChatGPT or not? Okay, so in this video, uh, I'm reading, I'm reading, I will read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck book, and today we are on chapter 6. So yeah, let's start and continue, right? So the topic or the chapter 6 title is You Are Wrong About Everything, but So Am I. 500 years ago, cartographers believed that California was an island. Doctor believed that slicing a person's open arms open or causing bleeding anywhere could cause cure disease. Scientists believed that fire was made out of something called phlogiston. Women believed that rubbing dog urine on their face had anti-aging benefits. Astronomers believed that the sun revolved around the earth. When I was a little boy, I used to think mediocre was a kind of vegetable that I didn't want to eat. I thought my brother had found a secret passageway in my grandmother's house because he could get outside without having to leave the bathroom. Spoiler: there was a window, right? Hmm. I also thought that when my friends and his family visited Washington, D.C., they had somehow traveled back in time to when the dinosaurs lived because after all, BC was a long time ago. But I don't know that that was BC, right? As a teenager, I told everybody that I didn't care about anything. Then the truth was, I cared about way too much. Other people ruined my world without my even knowing. I thought happiness was a destiny and not a choice. I thought love was something that just happened, not something that you worked for. I thought being cool had to be practiced and learned from others, rather than invented for oneself. When I was with my first girlfriend, I thought we would be together forever. And then, when that relationship ended, I thought I would never feel the same way about a woman again. And then, when I felt the same way about a woman again, I thought that love sometimes just wasn't enough. And then I realized that each individual get to decide what is enough, and that love can be whatever we let it be, right? Every step of the way I was wrong. Every step, every step of the way I was wrong about uh, about everything throughout my life. I have been flat out wrong about myself, or the society, culture, the world, the universe, everything. And I hope that will continue to be the case for the rest of my life. And I hope that will continue to be the rest case of my rest of life. And just as present Mark can look back on past Mark's every flaw and mistake, one day future Mark will look back on present Mark's assumptions, including the content of this book, and notice similar flaws. And this will be a good thing because that will mean I have grown. There's a famous Michael Jordan quote about him failing over and over again, and that's why he succeeded. Well, I'm always strong about everything over and over and over again. That's why my life improves. So growth is an endless. We will, when we learn something new, we don't go from wrong to right. Rather, we go from wrong to slightly less wrong. And when we learn something additional, we go from slightly less wrong to slightly less wrong than that, and then even to less wrong than that, and so on. We are always in the process of approaching truth and perfection without actually ever reaching truth or perfection. We shouldn't seek to find the ultimate right answer for ourselves, but rather we should seek to with the chip away with the ways that we are wrong today, so that we can a little less wrong tomorrow. When viewed from this perspective, personal growth can actually be quite scientific. Our values are yeah, our values are our values are our hypothesis. This behavior is good and important. That other behavior is not. Our actions are the experiments. The resulting emotions and thought patterns are our data. There is no correct dogma or perfect ideology. There is no. There's only what. Okay. There is only what your experiences, what your experience has shown you to be right for you, and even then that experience is probably somewhat wrong too. And because you and I feel I everybody else all have different needs and personal histories and life circumstances, we will all inevitably come to different correct answers about what our lives mean and how they should be lived, right? Okay, I think I like that. There is no correct or more perfect ideology, right? Yes, yes. And because you and I my correct answer involves traveling alone for years and living in obscure places and laughing at my own farts. Or a teach that was the correct answer until recently that answer will change and evolve because I change and evolve. And as I grow older and more experienced, I chip away at how wrong I am, becoming less and less wrong every day. Chip away. To gradually remove all pieces of something. Many people become so obsessed with being right about their life that they never end up actually living it. A certain woman is single and lonely and wants a partner, but she never gets out of the house or does anything about it. A certain man works his ass off and believes he deserves a promotion, but he never explicitly says that to his boss. They are told that they are afraid of failure, of rejection, of someone saying no. But that's not it. Sure, rejection hurts, failure sells, but they are particular certainties that we hold on to. Certainties that we are afraid to question or let go of. Values that have values that have given our lives meaning over the years. That woman doesn't get out there and date because she would be forced to confront her beliefs about her own desirabilities. That man doesn't ask for the promotion because he would have to confront his belief about what his skills are actually worth. It's easier to sit in a painful certainty that nobody would find you attractive, that nobody appreciated your talents, than to actually test those beliefs and find out for sure. Belief of this sort that I am not attractive enough, so why bother, or that my boss is an asshole, so why bother, are designed to give us moderate comfort now by mortgaging greater happiness and success later on. They are terrible long-term strategies, yet we cling to them because we assume we are right, because we assume we are already know what is supposed to happen. In other words, we assume we know how the story ends. Certainty is the enemy of good. Nothing is for certain until it has already happened, and even then, it is still debatable. That's why accepting the inevitable imperfections of our values is necessary for our growth to take place. Okay, what is the meaning of clinch? To hold on tightly to something or someone, to stick closely on the surface. Okay. Instead of striving for certainty, we should be in constant search of doubt. Doubt about our own beliefs, doubt about our own feelings, doubt about what future may hold for us unless we get out of there and create it for ourselves. Instead of looking to be right all the time, we should be looking for how we are wrong all the time because we are. Being wrong opens up to the possibility of change. Being wrong brings the opportunity for growth. That means not cutting your arm open to cure the cold or splashing dog piss on your face to look young again. It means not thinking mediocre is a vegetable or not being afraid to care about. Brings the opportunity for growth. Because here's something that weirds, but we don't actually know what a positive or negative experience is. Some of the most difficult and stressful moments of our lives also end up being the most formative and motivating. Some of the best and most gratifying experiences of our lives also are also the most distracting and demotivating. Don't trust your conception of positive and negative experiences. All that we know for certain is that what hurts in the moment and what doesn't. And that's not worth much. Just as we look back in our lives of people 500 years ago, I imagine people 500 years from now will laugh at us and our certainties today. They will laugh at how we let our money and our job define our lives. They will laugh at how we were afraid to show appreciation for those who matter to us most. They heap praise on public. They heap praise on public figures who don't deserve anything. They will laugh at our rituals and superstitions, our worries and our wars. They will gawk at our plurality. They will study our art and argue over our history. They will understand truths about us of which none of us are yet aware. And they too will be wrong, just less wrong than we were. Architects of our own belief. Try this. Take a random person and put them in a room with some buttons to push. Then tell them that if they do something specific, some undefined something that they have to figure out, a light will flash on it, getting that they have won a point. And tell them to see how many points they can earn within a 30-minute period. And psychologists have done this. What happened is what you might expect. People sit down and start mashing buttons at randomly until eventually the light comes on to tell them they got a point. Logically, then then try repeating whatever they were doing to get more points. Except now the light's not coming on, so they start experimenting with more complicated sequences. Press this button 3 times, then this once. Then wait 5 seconds, and then another point. But eventually it stops working. Perhaps it doesn't have to do with buttons at all. They think perhaps it has to do with how I'm sitting or what I'm touching. Maybe it has to do with my feet. Think another point. Yeah, maybe it's my feet and the net producer of button thing. Generally, within 10 or 15 minutes, each person has figured out the specific sequence of behavior required to get more points. It's usually something weird like standing on one foot or memorizing a long sequence of button pressing a specific amount of time while facing a certain direction. But here's the funny. But here is the funny part. The point really are random. There is no sequence. There is no pattern. Just a light that keep coming on with a thing. The people doing card use thinking that they are doing is giving them points. Sadism aside, the point of experiment is to show how quickly the human mind is capable of coming up with and believing in a bunch of bullshit that isn't real. And it turns out we are already good at it. Every person believes that room, convinced that he or she nailed the experiment and won the game. They all believe that they discovered the perfect sequence of button that earned them their points. But the magic they came up with are as unique as individual themselves. One man came out with a long sequence of button pushing that, that made no sense to anyone but himself. One girl came to believe that she had to tap the ceiling a certain amount of times to get points. When she left the room, she was exhausted from jumping up and down. Our brains are meaning machines. What we understand as meaning is generated by the association of a brain makes between two or more experiences. We press a button, then we see a light and go on. We assume the button causes the light to go on. This, at its core, is a basic basis of meaning. Button, light button. We see a chair, we note that it's grey. Our brain then draws the association between the color grey and the object chair and for meaning the chair is grey. Our minds are constantly varying. A continuous low, fast spinning or buzzing sound, usually made by machines, spins are buzzing. Okay. Our minds are constantly okay, generating more and more information to help us understand and control the environment around us. Everything about our experience, both external and internal, generates new associations and connections within our minds. Everything from the word on this page to the grammatical concepts you see to the verdad to, to the dirty thoughts your mind wanders into when my writing becomes boring or repetitive. Each of these thoughts, impulses, and perception is composed of thousands upon thousands of neural connections, firing in conjunctions, lighting your mind in a blaze of knowledge and understanding. But there are two problems. First, the brain is imperfect. We make mistake things we see and hear. We forget things or misinterpret events quite easily. Second, once we create meaning for ourselves, our brains are designed to hold on to that meaning. We are biased towards the meaning our mind has made and we don't want to let go of it. Even if we see evidence that contradict the meaning we created, we often ignore it and keep on believing that anyway. The comedian Emma Phillips once said, I used to think the human brain was the most wonderful organ in my body, and then I realized who was telling me this. The unfortunate fact is, most of what we come to know and believe is the product of the innate inaccuracies and biases present in our brains. Many or even most of our values are products of events that are not representative of the world at large, or the or are the result of a totally misconceived past. Misconceived means that is a wrong idea, badly planned, misguided. The result of all this, most of our beliefs are wrong, or to be more exact, all beliefs are wrong. Some are just less wrong than others. The human mind is a jumble of inaccuracy, and while this may make you uncomfortable, it's an incredibly important concept to accept as we'll see. Be careful what you believe. In 1988, while in therapy, the generalist and feminist author Meredith Mirren came to a startling realization. Her father had sexually abused her as a child. It was a shock to her, a repressed memory she had spent most of her adult life oblivious to. But at the age of 37, she confronted her father and also told her family what had happened. Murder's news horrified her entire family. Her father immediately denied having done anything. Some family members sided with Murdered, others sided with her father. The family tree was split into two, and the pain has that defined Murder's relationship with her father since long before her accusation now spread like a mold across its branches. It tore everyone apart. Then, in 1996, Murder came to another startling realization: her father actually don't actually hadn't sexually abused her. Oops. She, with the help of well-intentioned therapists, had actually invented the memory. She, with the help of well-intentioned therapists, had actually invented the memory. Consumed by guilt, she spent the rest of her father's life attempting to reconcile with him and another family member through constant apologizing and explaining. But it was too late. Her father passed away and her family would never be the same. Turned out Meredith, Meredith wasn't alone. As she describes in her autobiography, My Lie, a true story of false memory. Throughout the 1980s, many women accused male family members of sexual abuse only to turn around and recent years later recant years later. Similarly, there was a whole swath of people who claimed during that same decade they were fanatic, satanic, satanic cult abusing children. Yet, despite police investigation in dozens of cities, police never found any evidence of crazy practices described. Why were people suddenly inventing memories of horrible abuse and families and cults? And why was it all happening then in 1980s? Ever played the telephone game as a kid? You say something in one person's ear and it gets paused for like 10 people, and what the last person hears is completely unrelated to what you started with. That's basically how your memories work. We experience something, then we remember it slightly differently a few days later, as if it had been misheard and misheard. Then we tell somebody about it and have to fill it in a couple of plot holes with our honest embellishment to make sure everything makes sense and we are not crazy embellishment. Okay, an addiction or decorate an addition or decoration that makes something more attractive, interesting, or impressive. Okay, our own addition to make sure everything makes sense. And then we came to believe those little filled mental games, and so we tell those the next time too. Except they are not real, so we get them a little bit wrong. And we are drunk one night a year later than we tell the story, so we embellish it in a little bit more. Okay, let's be honest, we completely make up about one third of it. But when we are sober the next week, we don't want to admit that we are a big fat liar. So we go along with revised and newly expanded drunkard version of our story, and 5 years later, absolutely swear to God, swear on my mother, swear on my mother's grave, truer than true story is at most 50% true. We all do this, you do, I do. No matter how honest and well intentioned we are in a perpetual state of misleading ourselves and others for no other reason that our brain is designed to be efficient, not accurate. Oh, yeah, let's see. Not only those are memories, so to the point that eyewitness testimony isn't necessarily taken seriously in court cases, but our brain functions in a very, very biased way. So, how so? Well, our brain is always trying to make sense of current situation based on what we already believe and have already experienced. Our brain is always trying to make sense of current situation based on what we already believe and have already experienced. Every new piece of information is measured against the values and conclusion you already have. As a result, our brain is always biased toward what we feel to be true in that moment. So when we have a great relationship with our sister, we will interpret most of our memories about her in a positive light. But when the relationship soars, we'll often come to see those exact same memories differently, reinventing them in such a way as to explain our present day anger toward her. That sweet gift she gave us last Christmas is now remembered as patronizing and condescending, 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 condescending. That time she forgot to invite us to her lake house is now seen not as an innocent mistake but as horrible negligence. Murder's fake abuse story makes far more sense when we understand the values in which her belief was. First of all, Meredith had had a strained and difficult relationship with her father throughout most of her life. Second, Marriage had a series of failed intimate relationships with men, including a failed marriage. So already in terms of our values, Low's relationships with men were dying so hard. Then in early 1980s, Margaret became a radical feminist and began doing research into child abuse. She was confronted with horrific story after horrific story of abuse, and she dealt with innocent survivors, usually little girls for years on end. She also reported extensively on a number of inaccurate studies that came out around the time, studies that later turned out grossly overestimated the prevalence of child molestation. The most famous study reported that a third of adult women had been sexually molested as children, a number that has since been shown to be false. On top of all of this, Murdit fell in love and began a relationship with another woman, an incest survivor. Murdit developed a codependent and toxic relationship with a partner, one in which Murdit continually tried to save the other woman from her traumatic past. The partner also used her traumatic past as a weapon of guilt to own Murdit's affection. Meanwhile, Mordred's relationship with her father deteriorated even further. He wasn't exactly thrilled that she was now in a lesbian relationship, and she was attending therapy at an almost compulsive rate. Her therapist, who had their own values and beliefs, driving their behavior, regularly insisted that it couldn't simply be this highly stressful reporting job or her poor relationship that were making her so unhappy. It must be something else, something deeper. Around this time, a new form of treatment called repressed memory therapy was becoming hugely popular. This therapy involved a therapist putting a client into a trance-like state where she was encouraged to roll out and re-experience forgotten childhood memories. These memories were often benign, but the idea was that at least a few of them would be traumatic as well. So there you have Meredith, miserable and researching incest and child molestation every day, angry at your father, having endured an entire lifetime of failed relationships with men, and only person who seems to understand her love is another woman who is survivor of incest. Oh, and she's lying on a couch crying the other day, and the therapist demanding over and over that she remembers something she can't remember. You have a perfect recipe for an invented memory of sexual abuse that never happened. Our mind's biggest priority when processing experiences to interpret them in such a way that all will over with all of our previous experience, feelings, and beliefs, but often we run into life situations where past and present don't cover. On such occasions, what we were experiencing in the most flies in the face of everything we have accepted as a true and reasonable about our past. In an effort to achieve coherence, our mind will sometimes, in cases like that, even invent false memories while linking our present experiences with that imagined past. Our mind allows us to maintain whatever meaning is already established. Okay. As noted earlier, Northern story is not unique. In fact, in 1980s and early 1990s, as noted earlier, Northern stories is not unique. In fact, in 1980s and early 1990s, hundreds of innocent people were wrongly accused of sexual violence under similar circumstances. Many of them went to prison for people who were dissatisfied with their lives. These suggestive explanations combined with the sensationalizing media, they were veritable epidemics. Veritable, genuine epidemics of sexual abuse and satanic violence are going on. Satanic. And you could be a victim too. give people's unconscious mind the incentive to fudge their memories a bit and explain their current suffering in a way that allowed them to be victims and avoid responsibility. Repressed memory therapy then acted as a means to pull these unconscious desire out and put them into a seemingly tangible form of memory. Fudge. Is this enough for today or something else I have to do? There's a lot in this chapter, right? I think I should complete this. This process and the state of mind it resulted became so common that a name was introduced for it: false memory syndrome. It changed the way courtrooms operate. Thousands of therapists were sued and lost their licenses. Repressed memory therapy fell out of practice and was replaced by more practical methods. Recent research has only reinforced the painful lesson of that era. Our beliefs are malleable and our memories are horribly unreliable. And there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there telling you to trust yourself and to go with your gut and all sorts of other pleasant sounding glitches. But perhaps the answer is to trust yourself less. After all, if your heart and mind are so unreliable, maybe we should be questioning on our intentions and motivations more. If we are all wrong all the time, then isn't self skepticism and the rigorous challenging to our own beliefs and assumption only logical route to progress? This may sound scary and self-destructive, but it's actually quite positive. It's not only the safer option, but it's liberating as well. Okay. So, thank you so much. And please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I will bring some such more content in this channel. Yeah. Yeah. Bye bye. See you soon.